Hi, my name is Talina Lindsay. I teach kindergarten at Notre Dame Academy, and I'm going to be showing you how I got started with curriculum mapping. So why do we even need to do this? Well, the biggest thing is that it gives you control over what you're teaching your children. Only you know what your students need. So I remember one time at an interview, I was asked what drives my instruction. I knew the answer wasn't the teacher's manual. Instead, it was that the students drive the instruction, supported by the standards and you getting them there. How many times have you gotten to a part of your published or created curriculum and asked yourself, why in the world am I teaching this? Or this makes no sense, or my kids already know this, or my kids aren't even ready to move on yet. So curriculum mapping allows the teacher to teach exactly what his or her students need so that they can be successful. You know what your students need. Creating a curriculum map allows for you to reflect on and create curriculum that you have control of so that you are able to do what brought you into the profession in the first place, to help the students reach their full potential. So the first part of getting started is to name your unit or give it a title. You'll start with one of the strands from the standards, either reading literature or reading informational text, followed by a domain. So the one we're going to look at today is the reading literature. The domain is craft and structure, and the topic that I chose is We Are Storytellers. So for naming this unit, I started with the standard first, the strand and domain, which was easy to pick because they're there for you and you could choose them. And I had no idea what my topic was going to be. So I went to Pinterest and I looked up kindergarten literature and I got a ton of ideas where they were talking about the different purposes of writing. And I found the PIE, which I'd never heard of before, but now it makes sense. Texts that persuade, texts that inform, and texts that entertain. And I figured I do that anyways, but this process is actually making me think a little bit deeper about, actually a lot deeper about what I'm teaching and why I'm teaching it, and making sure that I'm hitting the standards. So for that part of the process, I feel that it's making me a better teacher. In naming another unit, I actually went backwards and started with my topic. For this unit, I decided, because I had so much trouble coming up with that other one, and it took me for a long time, I decided to think about what I teach at the beginning of the year. And I always teach about God's gifts and trying to have a positive outlook, like Pete the Cat, about friends and families. So I thought of my topic first in this one. And then I realized that I do more literature at the beginning of the year in kindergarten. So then I just had to figure out the domain from there. So however you want to do it, you find, it's not always going to be the same way each time. What I found helpful is using my old lesson plan book from the previous year, just to see what I normally taught. You guys know what you taught, so you could either take the standard or your topic and then go from there. So the next part that I'm going to show you is actually the trickiest part that's going to take most thought. And it's figuring out what your big idea and essential questions are. So looking at your big idea, some things to think about are, why are you teaching this unit? The big idea is something that should have a lasting value for your student throughout their lives. They should have great potential to motivate students. A big idea should be something important to know and should answer your essential questions. And you should not have too many big ideas, probably no more than about 3 or 4. So this is for my reading literature, craft and structure unit on We Are Storytellers. I was trying to think of, why am I teaching children about literature? And I wanted them to know that all stories have a purpose. Every time you're reading or telling a story, there's a purpose for it. and that stories are organized in different ways according to their purpose, so that not only can they recognize the purpose of the stories, but they'll be able to also create stories with a purpose. So moving on to the essential questions. So the essential questions you want to ask yourselves: how are we getting our students ready for their future? These are some things that you're teaching the students that should have lasting value, not just learning for a test and then putting them away. So also teaching them how they're going to help them be better people throughout their lives. You should also have no more than 3 or 4 essential questions so that you're able to stay focused. And it keeps you focused on what the target of your instruction is. They should be written in student-friendly language so that the students are able to repeat them and use them. And they should not be questions that you could answer with yes or no. And they should also be referenced frequently, not only throughout the unit, but also throughout the year and throughout their lives. So my essential questions for the We Are Storytellers unit is: why do we read stories? Why do we tell stories? And why did the author write this story? And how can you tell using the text features? So again, you're not wanting the same answer from all students. Each student should have their own thinking on these questions for your essential questions. But like I said, the big idea and the essential questions, these are the hardest, because these are what drives your whole unit, and these are why you're teaching the unit. So next is selecting your standards. So for selecting your standards, all you need to do is click choose your standards, and then they're just in a drop down. And so don't forget to look under your strand, either literature or informational text, and then you can just check your standard. Make sure you're only checking the standard that you're going to be assessing. So yes, you hit a ton of standards in every single lesson that you do, but when you're looking at your unit planning, you are only picking the main standards that you are trying to make sure that the kids have a real good grasp of. And they're the target standards that you're explicitly teaching. So make sure that you're not checking off too many. Let's see. So the next part is your content knowledge. And the content knowledge, like I said, don't be afraid to use your lesson plan book, because what you've done before, you're going to do it again if it was important. So looking at the content, this is the what that is being taught, what you want your students to know, and it's helpful to begin with a noun. You can see all of these are nouns, and include any new vocabulary. So I figured the students aren't going to really know what persuade is, purpose, entertain, or inform, and opinion. So don't forget to include any new vocab, because that's new learning. Let's see. And then, the whole time that you're writing this, make sure that you're focused and go back to the big idea and essential questions. It's helpful if you maybe write it on the side so you don't have to keep scrolling down. I wrote it big on a piece of paper because I kept needing to make sure that I stayed focused. And the next part that I'm going to show you how I did was the skills. And these are what students need to be able to do or to know. They should be specific and precise, and they should be something that you can observe and measure so that you can assess and then plan for your next step and how you can guide them to achieve their next steps. They should begin with an action verb, and you should have at least one skill per standard. And don't forget that they start with a verb. The diocese has actually made this part really easy. If you go to the San Diego diocese page at sdcatholic.org, click on schools, and then professional learning. On the top, there's PL. Click on the PL plan. And then there should be different grades. So click on kindergarten and you'll see the skills listed by the standard. So all you need to do is cut and paste the ones that you're using. Remember to keep focused on the standards that you're targeting in this unit. Also included are your school-wide learning expectations. Don't forget to add those, and Catholic identity into all of your units. For the assessment piece, you want to make sure that you're showing evidence of learning. You should use a combination of both formative and summative assessments. And this should show what the students know or their understanding of the content. Now, remember, for formative, these are assessments when you're watching students work towards reaching the standards. Use formative assessments to modify your teaching and learning activities. This is why it is so important that you create your own map, because all students need different guidance at different paces and with different learning styles. And for the summative, that's when you evaluate the student's learning at the end of the unit. So make sure you include both kinds. The learning activities, remember, this is not your lesson plan. This is your unit plan. So if you want to do more specifics, that's going to go in your lesson plan. So I just kind of wrote some ideas that I have by week. I know after I teach this lesson, I'm going to go in, I'm sure, and make some changes. So that's what's great about the curriculum map. It's forever changing. You could delete things you don't like, and you could add any new ideas as you find them. I just added some attachments so that I don't forget for the unit. Like I said, Pinterest is a place where I go and collect a lot of things, or I take pictures of the charts that I use. Instead of saving the whole chart for the year, I just have a picture of it in my unit. And so it's organized that way. And then your resources and differentiation, technology integration, I still need to do that. And then after you teach, you can, or during your teaching, you could add your reflections. So hopefully this helped you a little bit. If you have any questions, you can email me at tlindsey, that's LINDSEY, at ndasd.org, and I'd be happy to help you with anything that you need. Thanks.